Hey everyone, thanks for checking out episode 6 of the Enkindled Columbus Podcast. My name's Zach.
And this is Alonzo, and today we're with Maria Pontones. She is one of the owners of Pontones Music here in Grove City, which has been around, the city for since 68. Okay. And that's a while. That's a long time. That's like
before you were born.
Before I was born, easy. So I guess all this time of going on, what have you learned real quick? Like what's one piece of advice right now you could just give right off the bat?
All right. Taking over a music store from my parents that was already established, which is kind of very nice if you take over an established business because people know it's here, it's a very nice privilege to talk to people, help them out, promote music. Not a bad thing.
Right. And I know, all this time since it's passed and stuff, what have you learned from your parents owning this shop that's passed on to you? And did you see yourself owning this shop ever?
Never. Okay, so what I learned from my parents, because they also had owned the Orange Julius in Westland Mall for 10 years, was if you own a business, you run the business, you live the business. When you hire other people, even your relatives, is when you run into problems. That's just the way life is. So in order to stay open, you work.
Fair enough.
And you have to keep regular hours. If you say you're open from 11 to 7, you are open from 11 to 7 because any bad press of not being open during those times, people remember.
And I know, during the week, your work week here, there's a lot of lessons, guitar lessons. What is all taught here? Guitar, bass, I think I've seen flute.
Band instruments.
Yeah.
String instruments, drumming. So we have about 8 different instructors.
And every time I've been here, I want everyone to know this. Maria she can talk to anybody that comes into this building. I'm serious. And it's actually kind of a beautiful thing to watch. With that being said, what have, through conversation, what have you picked up from learning? Like, what have you learned from people?
Well, I learned this from nursing because I'm a nurse. Okay. And when you were triaging people in the emergency room, if you gave somebody 5 minutes to explain what it is that they were there for or what they wanted, you could learn quite a lot, but you had to listen to them. So you just listen to people here, and they'll tell you a lot. Like a lady came in last night and never met her before, found out she's in the midst of divorce. She's dealing with a heart attack. She had some issues, and that was as she's walking out the door. So people want to be heard.
Well, and so do you think you develop friendships through I know there's a lot of kids that come at the same time every week, every day. Do you ever get to talk to the same parent every week type of thing? Or
some of them. In fact, one of them supplied me with a hair product that now has made my hair purple. So I want to thank Shelly Metz for my beautiful hair.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
So, well, the thing is, this girl I went to nursing school with, she had these priorities in life, and one of them was a sense of community. And I thought, what does that mean? Okay, so fast forward, I understand that. It kind of is a nice thing to know the people in your neighborhood. It's kind of fun because, for example, we have some people with drug issues next door, and we kind of help them out with supplying them with suckers and Mountain Dew and with $2 for the bus. And we encourage them to pay us back, but it's like they're part of the community.
Yeah.
You just can't lock them away. So
yeah,
it's kind of fun.
And you're doing what you can to help out.
Right.
And that's something that not everybody does.
And everybody's got a different journey. So if you listen to their journey, that's all they really want. Yeah. They don't want help.
Well, yeah, some people just need that. Some people need somebody, to talk to. I've been there before. You just need one person who's willing to lend their ear, and you can change somebody's life. So that's definitely big. So something I wanted to ask you, what is music to you? I mean, you said you've been doing this, most of your life. What is music to you?
Okay, so according to Bruce Springsteen, who was on my CD that I was listening to this morning, he was talking about how music says things that you can't say with words. And it provides feelings for people that a general conversation can't provide. And able to promote that sort of thing by having a music store and helping people learn how to communicate through music, you kind of feel like you're making the world a better place.
For sure. Now, I mean, being at a music store, you probably see all kinds of music all day, every day. But what kind of music do you listen to?
Flamenco.
Okay. Give me some examples.
Camarón de la Isla, Paco Peña, Paco de Lucia. But once again, we live in a world where in the old days, this gentleman would get copies of copies and then make copies and send them out to select friends, and it was like gold coming through the mail with VHSs and cassettes. So now all those things are on YouTube. Mm-hmm. It's fabulous. So you live in a world now where whatever music you like, you can, enjoy it.
Yeah, you can find it. It's readily available pretty much everywhere, and that's incredible. That's something even my grandmother, that's something I just got her on Spotify, and it changed her life. She had never heard some of these songs in 40 years.
How old is she?
She is 68.
I am 1 year younger than your grandmother. So.
Oops.
Don't look a day past 18, Maria.
Thank you. Right answer.
So, I seen kids take lessons through. Oh, were you going to say something?
No, it's just the fact that we have one teacher in particular named Josie who is able to take a 5-year-old, put a ukulele in their hand. She has tricks of the trade to get them to enjoy music. They can find music that they like on the internet and say, I'm going to play this song. And she will help them. And they come skipping into their lesson and they skip out. And if you can keep a kid happy about music, job well done.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I love that because some kids, I think, are naturally inclined to fall into that kind of thing, but a lot aren't, and it's very hard to get kids into that kind of stuff if they're not. So I think that's really cool that she's able to make that impact and to be able to get kids that might not otherwise be interested. I took lessons probably 10 years ago for guitar, and I mean, I've been a guitar player for 13 years, and I love playing guitar, but when I went to lessons, the teacher that I had wasn't able to get through to me at that time. It just didn't.
And that's kind of sad. If they can't inspire you, it's...
Like he was just trying to make $20 in 30 minutes.
That's not pretty.
That was my experience also. Like I think every time I tried, I think I did lessons 4 times, like ever. And then when I think this is just with music in general. I think if you really want to learn music, it's going to be a calling. I think something's going to just click in your head and you're like, okay, this makes sense. And then when you get that one thing, if it's a piece of theory or like you play let's say like a chord or something on guitar and it's like, this makes sense. Then it leads to other things that also make sense.
Because it's a whole lifetime of education.
Oh, yeah, it never ends.
Right.
And there's always someone, especially, I've learned this with the guitar, there's always someone better than you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, anytime. And there's someone better than you in anything you do. So that's why you should always try to keep learning.
And for example, we have a jam in the back room every Wednesday, and even though we're politically different in the way we feel, for 3 hours, we play music together, and no one talks politics, and we have a good time.
It's amazing how music can do that. You can kind of drop everything else, and you come together on a piece of music, and it can really change the way things go.
Right, and then, I think a lot of songs, songs are about feelings, and everybody has feelings.
Yeah, whether they want to admit it or not.
Yeah, everyone is sad, everyone is happy. I think that's something just so beautiful about, music is that there is that. There's music for everyone. I think I want to say.
And depending on what journey you're at that time is what music you listen to. So what works for you in your 20s might not work for you in the 30s.
Now, what has been one of the biggest challenges of running a music store for you?
Okay, so the internet.
Okay.
So wait.
When
we started out, there was the Yellow Pages. Mm-hmm. We were paying $300 a month for advertisement. Within 2 years, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And then it's the fact that people contact you through their cell phones. So we took over in 2003. Cell phones started maybe 2000, give or take a few. Okay.
Yeah, like flip phones were coming.
Yes. And this is where people get their information. It's just amazing how that runs everybody's life.
Oh yeah. So you think keeping relevant with the internet has been one of the bigger challenges?
Which we haven't. Okay, because we're not internet savvy. So we're, by the grace of God, go I, that we stay open because people. Here's the thing. People want us to be here, a few people. So they will come here and buy things just so we stay open.
Yeah.
And we're both living off of Social Security, so we kind of don't care if we make money. It'd be nice if we did, but we don't. But we stay open. We pay our bills, so...
I mean, what has gotten you guys through the years that other shops, because I think now you're the only music shop in Grove City.
Because we stopped buying things. If we don't sell it, we don't buy it.
Okay.
So if we sell it, we get a new one with the intention of selling that one too. But no, we don't overstock anything. If you want a guitar, we have a guitar.
Yeah.
We have one brand of guitar. We have a lot of accessories.
So just being smart with your inventory.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because you can't go, because you can't compete with Amazon. There's no way.
Oh, absolutely. And also, I know you make portions off like every lesson that will come through here. And I'm sure that helps a lot. You know, as she mentioned Josie earlier, and I mean, I'm sure she is a big part of keeping a lot of people going through.
A large part.
Yeah, a large part. God bless you, Josie.
She has 60 students.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, and she loves teaching.
Yeah.
It's unusual. Let's put it that way.
Well, I mean, just the amount of students, that tells you right there that she's passionate about it. Because I mean, is that a full-time job for her?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So
and also respecting your students, that helps too, because you got to respect them for their time and the fact that they're giving you money, and give them something for that money.
For sure.
Something, I've seen with like guitar lessons, I think it's like always, I think it's weird. Have you ever noticed like when someone like how many times it will happen a week of like no call, no show type of thing? Like I feel like when it comes to guitar lessons, I've experienced this myself. Like I feel like some people don't value time of another person. Like, like when it comes to like, especially when it comes to like lessons. I don't know. Is that weird to say? Have you observed something like that?
Josie, what she does is she contacts them before, like saying, "Are you coming?" And what is it? The message thing where you, okay, so that kind of, they don't have to answer the phone, but they get the message, and she reminds them that they had a lesson, and then they have to explain why they're not here. Yeah. And then she charges them $10 if they don't show.
Okay, so that's smart.
She's placing a value on her time.
Yeah, and you should. You
right.
should. I mean, anytime you don't do that, you're devaluing yourself.
Because we have a special needs people that come here once a month, and they come in the back room, and for an hour we play music, and they rattle things and beat on things, and we charge them $5 a person because to put some value on it. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes if you make it for free, it doesn't count anymore. It's not of value.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but that's awesome. They probably really, really enjoy that.
Right.
It's a good time for them.
They get to go and be with other people and listen to music.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also, I think what's also being consistent. Mm-hmm. And also that's how you learn music. You keep at it. You have to keep at it. And that's a hard thing because you can't come in here and buy music. Mm-hmm. You can buy an instrument to make the music, and that's the hardest thing, is learning how to play an instrument.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But it's rewarding, as Alonzo can tell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Maria has seen me over years suck at my instrument, always talk about getting better at my instrument and never doing it. Would go months without talking, I'll stop back in and still not good at my instrument. And then I think it was, I don't know what year it was, not like maybe like 2015. Basically, at some point over the years, I came back in and I showed her I was actually able to play, or at least I can pretend to play guitar now. And it was, and meeting people here like Christian and Tristan, they're two guys that I don't, Tristan doesn't
He went to Chicago.
Actually, Tristan's plays for the Bassinets, so if you ever heard of them, check them out. They're pretty cool. And Christian is he's been in a lot of groups through Columbus stuff, but he's an excellent teacher also. But both those guys have, like, anytime I hear anything they do, that inspires me to get better.
Well, and that shows you the communication and the connections you can make with music. And it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, for example, we were never in the band in high school because we had no money. But the fact that when kids join the band, they get 200 new friends right off the bat. And then they also have trips, and they learn the music. And it's like this tow truck driver picked us up one day, and he was reminiscing about the fact that the best time he ever had in his whole life was being in the band in high school. So...
Well, yeah, I mean, you talked earlier about a sense of community, but that really creates a sense of community for some kids who need it.
Discipline also, too. Like, that's, you have to be on beat, literally to your footstep. Like, it's important, which I could not do. I was not able to play tenor saxophone and walk at the same time. Fun fact.
It sounds like that came from experience.
I did my freshman year. That's why I played football. I couldn't do it. I could not walk and play. And, it took me a while, too, to get used to have a strap on my guitar and stand up and playing, because I've sat down so long, and then when I started jamming with people, I realized I can't be tubby and sit down.
Yeah, no, that took me forever, too, to get good at being able to stand and play.
It
totally changes the game from when you're sitting down, you have way more control, and then you stand up, and it's like you still have that control, but you have to learn how to kind of harness it in a different way. Mm-hmm. It totally changes the way you play. But it took me forever to master that as well.
Right. It's the small stuff you don't think about, and then you start to do it. I think something weird also too for me when I first started learning was like just changing strings. I don't know why I could not like comprehend it.
But everything's like a learning thing. Well, strings are dangerous. Mm-hmm. You can like lose an eye.
Oh yeah.
If you're not careful.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's scary when you first start up too, because you're like, these strings I have on here work. You should change them, but it's like, well, these work, and what if I don't know what I'm doing, and then it doesn't work?
Right? Yeah.
But thank goodness for YouTube.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, everything. I owe YouTube so much. That's how I've learned. Like, that's literally where a lot of my theory came from. Watching other people play, watching like Eric Clapton or like Peter Frampton play, like seeing them play their live shows. If I'm trying to learn one of their songs, I like to watch them play it live, and I see like, okay, this is what they're doing. So, I don't know. That's a whole nother episode.
I think literally half of the important things that I know have probably come from YouTube videos, sadly. But, I mean, that's something, we talked about the internet. That's something that's also changed a lot, is being able to learn anything you want to learn.
What I love about it is it ends senseless debates about things as one person thinks one way and one person thinks another way. You look up Wikipedia, you get the answer, end of discussion.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to mention this. I'll always remember. Do you remember a guy named Nick Young?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So he, what he taught me, I did one lesson with him. But I'm serious. Like that one time I had a lesson with him, he told me about the minor pentatonic. So that's a little theory, kind of with guitar and stuff. And literally because of that led into me like playing guitar better. And
Is that when you had your awakening?
Yeah, easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so I'm not just saying that because we're like, we have microphones in front of our face, but like honest to God, like that happened here. So I just want to say like this place does mean a lot to me. Or like I think one day I came in after my birthday or something, and I think my mom came in, and I think my mom said this to you guys, you and Josie, but like, it means a lot. Like I will come here if I have free time just to hang out. Like that's about yesterday. Yesterday I just literally came in. But
that's the thing about having a store is anybody can come in, but also people kind of have to be on their good behavior. And we've had some people with bad behavior come in, and they don't stay here very long.
Yeah.
Well, either the dog will chase them away. We have the store dog Lola, or there's enough people coming through here that will stop them from misbehaving.
For sure.
And people have to learn how to play with others.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's just part of life. But I mean, do you feel good being able to create that, a good environment for people? Like you changed Alonzo's life by having this store. Do you feel good about those
Well,
kind
I
of
think
things?
it's a privilege to be in this position. And also the fact that I can be nice to people. Mm-hmm. Because with nursing, you are helping them, but you're also making them cry. They're not in a good mood and things like that. They're dealing with big issues. Hey, music is not life-threatening, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, you get to have some fun with it. And, in your case, you get to create an environment where other people are having fun.
And then people get to talk about their musical journeys, whether they're big ones or small ones. Sometimes we get some people from the recording studio.
Oh, Sonic Lounge?
Sonic Lounge, or semi-famous people walking through here and sharing their musical journeys, and it's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you've met some interesting characters over the years.
Gotta go.
Cool.
Hey, everyone. So kind of funny backstory here. We were recording the podcast with Maria, and it just so happened that a gentleman walks in looking for banjo strings. And so Maria got up to take care of the customer, and turns out this guy is one of the coolest banjo players I've ever seen, and his name is Kevin. So Kevin, he started talking to us about his story, and we knew this is something we had to share. So Kevin, how you doing today, man?
Man, I'm hanging in there like a hair on a biscuit. How y'all doing?
Great. Good. So tell us a little bit about what you were telling us about earlier, because it was touching.
Well, it's kind of odd. I actually, when I got up this morning, I'm staying down here at the extended stay down here at the Wood Spring Suites. Fabulous place. I landed there 3 weeks ago. I'm been homeless the last year. I've lived in 12 different places in the last year. I had to leave my apartment, me and my two dogs, down in Cincinnati last year. And through different occurrences, we got run out of there. Not anything illegal or nothing like that, but basically the apartment had changed hands. And they wanted me and my dogs out so they could get other tenants in there and raise the rent. And I had been disabled for the last couple of years. I had filed for Social Security disability and was waiting on that, so I wasn't working. And I have a whole $515 a month income that comes in from the military, not the VA, mind you, but the United States Army. I'm 30% disabled from there, so I do have some medical insurance. But anyway, the long and the short of it was me and my dogs had to get out, so we ended up going to Arkansas for 5 months and living with family and friends at different places. My mom helped me out quite a bit. But we got notice in December of last year when I was living down in a place called Mountain View, Arkansas, that my hearing for my disability was going to be in February. So some good friends of mine down in Cincinnati that have been lifelong friends since I lived there the last 15 years, Dan and Carol Rosenthal, they had me come back and house sit for them, me and my dogs, in which, like I said, they have helped me out immensely. There are so many people that I need to thank in my life, and I will get to that in a few minutes. But moving forward with my story, while I had came back to Cincinnati, me and my dogs, I had had a physical with my primary care physician, and she palpitated a enlarged lymph node under my right armpit, the axillaries. And me having had cancer the last 15 years and I'd had a couple of 7-year remissions, and their fear was that my cancer was indeed out of remission. And oh boy, was it ever. It turns out that it's the worst it's ever been this time. People will say 3 times a charm. Well, not in my case. But as it turns out, I needed to get it treated, and I had nowhere to go. So my ex-girlfriend and her husband took me and my dogs in up here in Lewis Center, and we moved in up there January the 13th or February the 13th of this past year. And everything took a downturn. I got sick. Within 10 days after I moved there, I got very violently sick. Ended up going down to Mount Carmel St. Anne's and had CT scans, and they said, yeah, you are out of remission and you need to get into treatment real quick. And so I started getting treatment in April. One of my dogs passed shortly before I got sick. And, if that wasn't enough, a couple of months later, my second dog passed. And I'm all by myself in the world. I'm sick. I'm living in my ex-girlfriend and her husband's basement through their generosity. And then her mom gets sick. She needs to move her up out of Tennessee into the very basement that I'm living out of. So I'm in the middle of going through my cancer treatments, sick, and I've got to find another place to go. And when you're immune deficient going through chemotherapy, the last thing that you need is to be living in a men's shelter sharing a toilet with 50 other men. And that's all that was in my life. I don't have the money for an apartment. And so some other good friends of mine named Ray and Beth Vining, they live in the Hocking Hills out here just south of Laurelville, Ohio. They offered me their camper trailer. I had met Ray and Beth. They're very good musicians. They're on Facebook. They go by the Picking Duo, the Picking Pair, and they are very good friends of mine that I had worked with the last 3 years down in Cincinnati at the Appalachian Festival. And so they let me stay in their 27-foot camper trailer up next to their house. And everybody goes, well, that's not great. Yeah, it's better than a men's shelter.
It's absolutely better.
I had a camper toilet that was all mine. It was air conditioned and cleaned, and I have my food assistance, and so I was making it. Although it be like they were a lot like Gilligan's Island. They had no phone, no internet, no cell phone service out there. So I would drive into Laurelville each day to the library, and you get on the internet to check messages, and then go to the 2 places in town that my phone would work to see if there was any messages. And I did that for 3.5 weeks, but it wasn't meant to be a permanent fix. And so I needed to find me some better shelter. And I was through 3 treatments at that time of soon to be 6, not knowing how I'm doing. I get about 10 days a month that I feel real good. The other rest of the time, I am sick, guys. I've got the bug juice in me. I'm needing to use the bathroom a lot. Only thing you feel like doing is just getting up and going to the bathroom and going back and collapsing on a bed.
I can only imagine.
I can't imagine what it would have been like having to do that out of the back of my car. I mean, I was so sick after my first treatment, I wanted to quit. And I told my oncologist, I says, the only thing I know to do to never get this sick again is to not do these treatments. And she laid it on the line to me. She's a very astute young oncologist, Dr. Emily Saul, with the Oncology Hematology Associates. And she put her hands on her desk and she just looked at me. She says, look, she says, this isn't like the cancer that you've had before. She says, you're sick. She says, you're stage 4. And she says, your quality of life is going to go south in a hurry if you don't finish it exactly the way I'm telling you. She says, there's no other way to lay it on the line. She says, you will not get what you've had before if you don't do it my way. So I'll see you next week, Doc, for the second treatment. I mean, anytime someone, they come back and they lay the cards on the table like that and tell you this is the way it's going to be. Guys, she didn't become an oncologist because she couldn't, make it as a banjo picker. Come on.
She knows what she's doing.
And so, anyway, I've went through, starting next Wednesday, I will start my 5th treatment of 6, and I'm weathering it. But going back to getting out of Beth and Ray's hair, and I have had so many people that have helped me out a little bit along the way. I've never enjoyed this in my life. I've always been self-sufficient, and this has been a shock to me to, I've done everything from I was a truck driver. 3 years ago, I was bouncing in bars down in Cincinnati. I've been a rough and tumble guy. I've been shot at and cut with knives and stuff like that. So to have to depend on the benevolence of other people is strange to me. It really is. And I'm so grateful to so many people. When I left Beth and Ray's, I went and started my 4th treatment, not knowing where I was going to hang my hat. I was looking in Chillicothe because they were closer to Chillicothe. Everything was still leading me back towards the men's shelters, an environment that I would be better off living out of the back of my car the shelter environment is used to dealing with people that are living under cardboard boxes and bridges. So to them, any port in a storm is okay. Well, that sounds good, but it's not, especially for somebody that's as sick as I've been and having an immune suppression problem. So somehow or another, the VA, and I'm a veteran, but I haven't been entitled to the full benefits that other veterans get. And truthfully, I've been fighting with them for 35 years over the benefits that I was getting and what I was supposed to be getting, and not pushing them so much because I had other health insurance and, I've been getting treated. But a lady named Bonnie Crawford with the VA, hello, Bonnie, she met me at the infusion center. She somehow or another, we talked, and she says, I've worked in oncology, and let me try to help you. And she met me at the infusion center last month, and she could see all of my belongings in the back of my car, and that I have indeed, me and my dogs, we did several days out of the back of my car during the winter last year. And let me tell you guys, it's an overrated experience. Yeah, it can be done. But when you go to living out of the back of your car with a couple of dogs that I didn't know at the time was sicker than I was, it's and you got all of your life in that car with you. It's no picnic. You can camp out at truck stops, you can get in, but it's just not what it's cracked up to be, especially when it's cold.
Absolutely.
And I was not even as sick at that time as I was going to be. Would you hand me that right there, please? Thank you. I'd like to have a sip of that.
Get this
Thank
man
you.
some coffee.
I'm trying to get some. I am a bona fide coffee drinker, and y'all can thank my mom for putting this in my baby bottle when I was 6 weeks old. That's a true story for another time.
So tell me a little bit about this new banjo that you got. How did that come around?
Well, I'm a member of what is known on the internet as the Banjo Hangout. A man named Eric. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Eric. I apologize for this. These guys are going to send this podcast to you, and I don't know if you pronounce it Sledge. I don't know. You'll see how his name's spelled when you send him this. But this man started this place back in 2000. It's a website totally dedicated to banjo players, not just 5-string banjo players like me, tenor banjo players, all banjo players. You don't have to be a banjo picker. You can be someone that just wants to listen to banjo music. You could be somebody that just wants to watch people that love the banjo play. Steve Martin, the comedian, is a banjo player, a very good one.
Was not aware of that.
Yes, he is. You can find his stuff all over YouTube, stuff that he's did on, he used to go on the David Letterman show with banjo pickers. He went on there with the late, great Earl Scruggs.
I would have never guessed that in a million years.
Absolutely. He gives out an award once a year in the tune of $50,000 to a banjo player that him and a board of advisors that he thinks has done the most to promote banjo picking through the year.
Wow.
And half dozen people now. I guess this has been going on for 6-8 years now. He's given out $50,000 of his own money to a banjo picker.
That's insane.
It is, and no, I will never get the award, but it does change people's lives. And I know many of the banjo pickers that have received that award, and they are certainly worthy of it. These are people that are just phenomenal banjo players. I'm nowhere near in the class they are. That being said, this website is called the Banjo Hangout, and this man, Eric, started it back in 2000. I got on there being a ex-banjo player, having worked the road, as I like to put it. If you would put it as considering it as Major League Baseball, I was kind of AAA minor league that every now and then I would have a cup of coffee with the major leagues, but not full-blown major leagues. And so I joined in 2003, and you have to go by monikers, think of a name, a nickname. Years ago when I was playing with bands out in Kansas, I had this band that I was a member of, and I was a big Star Trek fan. And I would play something very fast. And they'd say, wow, says, you really was playing that at warp speed. And so I thought, well, I like that name Warp. I says, I'm just going to use that when I go on the Banjo Hangout. I'm going to make myself be known as Warpdrive. That's my nickname I'm going to go by. And it's stuck. And so everybody knows me on the Hangout as Kevin Warpdrive Hendrix. And so I started posting on there in 2003 and developed a little bit of notoriety and credibility because I have played professionally at times and would post things. I've actually was a part of a band that my claim to fame is I'm in the Smithsonian Institution. I was a member of a band that in 1997, PBS shot a project called Mississippi River of Song. And what they did was start at the source of the Mississippi River up in Minnesota, and they started cataloging all of the music that's played up and down the Mississippi. When they got to the Midwestern crossings, they needed a bluegrass band, and they picked the band that I was in at that time back in the 90s called the Bob Lewis Family Band for us to be the token bluegrass band on there.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, all of that and 50 cents won't even buy me a cup of coffee at Starbucks. But it was done on Smithsonian Folkways Recordings, which is a part of the Smithsonian Institute. So I'm forever with that.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's kind of neat. I've got a lot of stories from those years it was out on the road. But anyway, getting back to my illness in these people, I started posting videos when I was down in Arkansas from the RV park, my mom's RV park that I was staying at. And people started following me and watching them and asking questions about it and wanting me to follow more. And they knew my backstory. They knew about me waiting for disability and being, needing the places to stay and being homeless. And they started following me even closer when I got back to Ohio. They could see that my disability case had went south. Stage 4 cancer, out of work, can't support myself, and Social Security still will not rule in my favor to let me have my disability. And that's a whole different can of worms. The truth of it is they don't want you to have it. They do everything in their power to say you're not disabled. That being neither here nor there, the Hangout started following me closely, and I would complain on my videos about how in disrepair my banjo was and how I could play much better, and they knew I could. They could hear the intonation problems that I was having with it. And a buddy of mine that follows me on the Hangout named Ken Heidinger, he goes by the moniker on the Hangout from Greylock to Bean Blossom. And for whatever reason, Ken thinks I'm a good banjo player. And
Thanks.
well, I see it differently than everybody else does. But
You're
anyway,
a humble man, sir.
he started following me as with everybody else, and out of the clear blue, 2.5, 3 months ago, he did a GoFundMe. He says, we're going to help this brother of ours that's going through chemotherapy, that's homeless. You know that he's lost his, I love your little dog down there. What? Lola. If I start crying here in a minute, I apologize. I miss my babies.
I got tissues.
I miss my babies so bad. They started following me. He says, we're going to do a GoFundMe for you. I don't know where it's going to go to. And they raised, as you can see, this beautiful banjo. It's made by Arthur Hatfield down just above Bowling Green, Kentucky. They raised about $3,600 in 3.5 days for me to get this beautiful custom built. We call them boutique banjos, made by a private luthier, Mr. Arthur Hatfield, down in Bowling Green, Kentucky. They raised it in like 3.5 days.
Wow,
and it took Arthur
beautiful.
a couple of months to get this put together and get it built. And we just went and picked it up about 3.5 weeks ago. It's brand spanking new. It's the newest banjo I've ever had. And it's just, it has turned out to be a dream. And it's reinvigorated me to start playing again. And when I get through with all of my chemotherapy treatments, I'm hoping to get back into playing professionally, more out on the road with different bands. My plans are to rehook up with some old band members from my past and start playing again professionally out on the road. I've already worked a couple of gigs around here close. And this, as a matter of fact, this Saturday night, I'm going to be filling in with a band down in Greenfield, Ohio at the Seven Springs Bluegrass Festival. I'm more or less what you call a hired gun now.
Yeah.
And that's what I had done the last number of years, but that's what I'm going to be doing is going down and playing with a band down there at Greenfield, Ohio, this Saturday night.
Well, that's awesome. Well, hopefully, if we get this out soon enough, hopefully the listeners can hear that and get some folks out there to check you out. The biggest thing, I want to say thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And before we go any further, there are so many people that I want to thank for this on the Banjo Hangout. I'll start there. Ken Heidinger, people that they do nothing more or less. I would get private emails from people. Chuck 97, Flying Eagle, my buddy Jeff over in Philadelphia, ex-friends that have known me for years out in Kansas, Rod Durst. There's so many people, but they would just email me and they'd say, Kevin, Warp. They call me Warp. How are you doing? How are you feeling? That means so much when you're sick. I spent like 15 days in the hospital down here at Riverside Methodist because I'd crash and have neutropenic fever and stuff like that and be in what they call hematological shock. Never realizing I was ever going to get this sick. And when you are by yourself, you're sick, it means so much to have people, complete strangers. I had never met Ken before until we met up down in Louisville 3.5 weeks ago to go get this banjo. And yet we had known each other for years on the Hangout. And to meet each other like that, and finally put a face with that name.
Oh, yeah, it totally changes
It absolutely does. But I also have friends down in Cincinnati. I've got family I need to thank, my mom and my sister. I have friends in Cincinnati, Dan and Carol Rosenthal, and my buddy Ron Simmons. That's who I'm playing with this weekend at this festival.
Okay.
He also runs the Appalachian Festival down there in Cincinnati. And had it not been for him, I would have never met Ray and Beth Vining 3 years ago that let me stay in their camper trailer. So there's all this 6 degrees of separation stuff that goes on there that never would have happened. And then last and certainly not least, my ex-girlfriend, Penny, and her husband that let me and 2 sick dogs crash in their basement until her mom got so sick that, she had to move her in and move me out, and I landed up here in the Wood Spring Suites now. And, lastly, another good friend of mine, Emily Ewell. She is on the board of, this is big. She is on the board of a trust. She's on the board of trustees of a foundation, a benevolent foundation that the VA found a sponsor to put me in the Wood Spring Suites for a couple of weeks. Emily Ewell, a dear friend of mine in Cincinnati that has taken me to doctor's appointments before as a younger person. We've been friends for years. They got me in the suites until the end of September so I can finish my chemo treatments and have a roof over my head.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
It's huge. I'm telling you, I've never had, and people would go, well, you was due for some breaks. I've lost so much in the last year. I lost my home. I lost my health. I lost my fur kids. I lost everything but my name. So I'm having trouble wrapping my head around life starting to give me some things back. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this. You call it kismet, serendipity, whatever you want to call it, that I walk in here looking for banjo strings, and now this has happened, So I'm only hoping that this is the turn for a bunch of good things happening. Guys, I thank you for this. It's great getting to play for you like this.
Absolutely. And it's been amazing getting to hear your story, and I'm glad that we can be a part of it. I mean, obviously, you must be a great guy just because all the support you've received.
Man, I don't know how great I am because, I was a real stinker as a young man. I was an angry 400-pound gorilla as a young man. And I've actually had to go back later in life. The military had me addicted to mood stabilizers and anger management medicine for 24 years.
Wow.
And I was a holy terror as a young man. Scared people to death. It's a wonder somebody didn't pull a gun out. They had legal right to shoot me. And I had to go back and apologize to people for what a bad young person I was. So I don't feel worthy at times in my life to have good things. I tell people I've earned every bit of the bad things that happened to me. And so I'll get people that want to be contrary to the point and say, well, you don't deserve that, or you're due for a good break. I don't know that I'm due, but I'm certainly glad to be getting them. I'm thankful to the powers that be that are giving me these good breaks right now. I'm certainly not going to turn them down because, quite frankly, I've just been too sick to,
absolutely.
And you can get so sick in life that you will, the only thing you can do is just lay there and be sick and wonder what's going to happen to you. I can't tell you what that feels like, but I hope that other people don't have to go through it. I mean, I never imagined that I would be there, but I thank you for this. I thank you so much for this opportunity to tell my story. And I hope I can see you guys again sometime. I'm going to be here for a couple of months, if I can do anything to help y'all again. And I thank you for what you're going to do sending us to the Banjo Hangout. If somebody wants to follow me on my thread on the Banjo Hangout, it's a 15-page thread that's been going on now. It's called I'm Still Alive and Kicking by Kevin Warpdrive Hendrix, and I've got videos on YouTube that catalog my story over the last year. If you want to go on YouTube and find it, you'll see me sometimes. I had a big long beard down to my belly at times, and here lately it's been this cowboy hat and shades. And people think I wear the cowboy hat and shades to be cool, but it's because right now my body is so messed up from chemotherapy. The sun is not my friend. I live like a zombie/vampire right now. I don't go out in the daylight much. But guys, thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much. It's been great having you.
Y'all take care.
That was our interview with Kevin Warpdrive Hendrix. Coming up next are some songs he shared with us on his banjo.
All right, I think I'm ready now. Let's do this. All right. The name of this is Flint Hill Special. Spare you the agony of listening to my voice that sounds like somebody dropping sheetrock screws down a garbage disposal. And I'll play Foggy Mountain Breakdown for you. you. Thank you, fellas. Appreciate it.